Hey YouTube, I just found an app from Spotify which shows you a year in music, and just had a quick look through about my year in music. So I use Spotify all the time, and some of the stats are quite interesting. So I thought I'd make a quick video just showing you what my tastes progressed over the course of the year, what I've been listening to, and how this sort of correlated quite conveniently with what's going on in my life. So 30% of my music taste is around alternative metal. They define this as a mixture of heavy guitars and metal and elements of alternative rock. So melodic vocals but metal guitar riffs. Then 20% of it is rock, 17% is screamo, 13% alt rock, and then 40% post-grunge. That's quite interesting to speak of it from a broader genre sense, because alternative metal is sort of what I would describe of Catalyst as, I guess, metalcrap is a form of alternative metal. Yeah, the rock element makes a lot of sense to me because of, some of my favourite bands of all time are just straight hardcore rock bands. Screamo isn't really a surprise, seeing as how much screamo I do actually listen to. Although, what do they define as screamo? They define screamo as evolution from emo and post-hardcore in the early 90s. Screamo is more aggressive and dissonant than emo and is notable for its brief compositions, chaotic execution, and screaming vocals. So I guess that's mainly from bands I listen to, like Slipknot. I listened to a lot of Escape the Fate this year, Bullet for My Valentine. But yeah, apparently 70% of it is actually screamo. So my top 5 artists from this year that I've listened to are Alter Bridge, because Alter Bridge are awesome. In This Moment, Slipknot, Funeral for a Friend, and Bullet for My Valentine. Which is very weird because it doesn't contain my 2 favourite bands of all time, which are Guns N' Roses and Queen. So it's quite surprising that they're not even in my top 5. I expected at least one of them to be in there. Top 5 albums are Blood by In This Moment, All I Was by Mark Tremonti, The Grey Chapter by Slipknot, which is a brilliant album. If you haven't listened to it yet, please go listen to it. Hours by Funeral for a Friend, and Vampires and Tomato Juice's self-titled album. Now, Vampires and Tomato Juice, if you have never heard of them, which you probably haven't, I really recommend listening to them. If you're a fan of System of a Down, then you'll definitely appreciate them. It's almost like a German, more much like Toxicity era, and still this album era System, but German, and it's just hilarious. Right, the top 10 tracks I've listened to this year. So I'll go from number 10. Number 10 was Waking the Demon by Bullet for My Valentine. Classic sort of Bullet song. Cries of Achilles by Alter Bridge off their last release, Fortress. Great song. Love Bites by Halestorm. Another brilliant song. Halestorm, it's weird, I've been getting into them more lately, but I have listened to them throughout the course of the year. Number 7 is Aftermath by Escape the Fate. That's part of the Guillotine trilogy, originated from their first album. They were the first 3 albums they did with the song per each. Great song, that's my favourite of the 3. I'm not even sure why, I guess it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. 6th place was Calm the Fire for Fortress, also by Alter Bridge. 5th place, another Halestorm song, I Miss the Misery. Quite surprising that that's above Love Bites. Seeing as I actually do prefer Love Bites as a song, but apparently it's into I Miss the Misery more. Quite interesting. 4th place, Lover by Alter Bridge, also off Fortress. There's a lot of Fortress going on here. I really do like that. Why is that not? This is really weird, seeing as my top most listened album doesn't have any of the top 10 tracks, but anyhow. Right, I'm now down to the top 3. So in 3rd place, which isn't really a surprise, is Still Counting by Volbeat, because it's a brilliant song. It is so silly, and I really love silly metal and silly rock music, but it's got great riffs, it's got that funky little intro, and the lyrics are just so bizarre. Right, 2nd place, God, I can't believe I'm going to be saying this. 2nd place is Nikki by Forever the Sickest Kid, Do Not Judge Me. I'm not even going to go into explaining that, but that is the song that is 2nd place, and oh god. Right, for the number 1 slot, I listened to the most this year is, if you've been following what else is in the top 10 and one of my other most listened artists, it is Alter Bridge's Addicted to Pain off of Fortress. because it's the lead single and that song is the first track off the album I heard, and I just love it to death. And the riff, oh that riff. Here's the one that actually interested me the most. Seasonal favourites. So it tells you a band that defines each season of the year, so winter, spring, summer and autumn. This one I find quite interesting because it sort of shows how I progressed throughout the year and how my taste changed, and it brings back sort of memories of where I was at these different points in the year and what I was feeling and what bands represent that the most, or why. So in the winter, so last January, February, the Tupelo System Band was In This Moment. Isn't really surprised because that's about the time I really got into the album Blood and started going through their back catalogue. Good album. To be honest, a little bit of a letdown with the new album, although I do have tickets here to see them in London in March. I'm looking forward to that gig actually. If you're going to be seeing that gig, post in the comment below so I know how to meet you there. It's the London gig on March 5th at Coco with a special guest. Okay, in the spring, it was Funeral for a Friend. Isn't really surprising as I saw the band twice and I was listening to hours on repeat for every day. A lot of Funeral for a Friend in last spring, so that'll be about March till May time. That's not really a surprise to me. Over the summer, my top most System band was Alter Bridge. Alter Bridge! And in the autumn, top most System band is Slipknot. Because Slipknot. Just, And then there's just like random tidbits here, sort of like where do you listen to the most? Like apparently I listen to on the go, so on my iPod most, which is true, I do listen on my iPod or my phone all the time. I've almost clocked in 20,000 minutes worth of Spotify, which equates to, if I do the math quickly, so apparently I've listened to almost 20 days worth of music. That's actually surprisingly low. I was expecting more, and apparently often time I listen to music will be on Tuesday. Average 2 hours on Tuesday worth of music, which is once again surprisingly low. I swear I listen to more than 2 hours of music a day. Because I'm playing music more than anything. Anywho, the reason I want to share this is because the bit that fascinated me most was the season thing about winter, spring, summer and autumn, and which band represents what you listen to in that season the most. Because it really sort of brings back memories of where I was in those sort of time frames, what I was listening to, what I was feeling, and like last winter. I was listening to In This Moment quite a lot, and it was quite weird because it was in my second semester in university. Everything was a bit weird, and I guess I sort of drew myself towards them. Funeral for a Friend in the spring was for various reasons I was listening to them a lot, but it also reflects quite interestingly upon my bands. This is more the point to come back to. So, for those of you who've been following Off Catalyst, thank you very much if you have been following Off Catalyst. Really appreciate it. When we found Sabrina, that was in the February of last year, or this year, 2014, when I was listening to a lot of In This Moment. That I just find not necessarily coincidental, but it's interesting to see that that's where my mind was at. I wanted female-fronted rock band. That's what I wanted. I wanted that at that time. Not saying like after that point I didn't want one anymore, because once we got Sabrina, I realised that she's a great vocalist and she is, she really does bring something unique to our music and makes it takes on a whole other life with her at the helm, and it's great. But it's interesting to see that around the time that we got her, what I was listening to was female-fronted band. And Funeral for a Friend, that's also interesting because they, around that time, because I'm not just myself listening to them, but Andy listens to a lot of Funeral for a Friend, listens to more than I did or do, but it's interesting to see our music around the springtime when we were writing together was going slightly more for that Funeral for a Friend style vibe over what we originally set out to be, was just more of a straight rock band. So it's around the time it started to change. And then over the summer we were separated. I was back in Wales where I live, and he was in Luton where he works. And my writing and my riff writing started to change more into the style of Alter Bridge, with some nice beefy riffs, big open choruses, very Alter Bridgey rock sounding. So music started to sway more from that Funeral for a Friend thing, more to this sort of hard rock metal realm. It's going to be very interesting when we actually decide what we're going to have on our album. So I did a count the other day, we've got over 20 songs written over the course of a year. You decide from this down and make what's going to be the best album of Catalyst. What will be the best of Catalyst album to release to you people for you to hear. Now behind this I imagine I'll be putting some of our music so you sort of hear little tidbits of what's going on. But it's interesting to see this progression, because even when I was listening in this moment, Leap of Faith I would say has certain elements of it which are kind of that almost heavy metal style, because in this moment not really thrashy or riffy or metalcore, at least not to me, it's more straight and heavy. BTSC, one of our songs, is very Funeral for a Friend. There's the outro is almost like a more atmospheric Roses for the Dead. That was not surprising, as I listened to that song quite a lot, and Andy loves that song, we both do. Andy actually wrote BTSC. I just sort of added my own little flavours in there, but we worked it out together kind of thing. He had the initial idea and then we sort of fleshed it out as a duo. It is still his song now, and it's not surprising because he's very Funeral for a Friend influenced. He was at that time at least, because it was a common interest. Alter Bridge once again was the same, very common interest. Around that time also was when I was getting back into my metalcore-ish sort of music, so I've never been a straight metalcore guy, or like Parkway or Asking Alexandria, or I think of metalcore bands I don't really listen to. But yeah, you get the idea. In autumn, so the last part of this year, Slipknot. Once again, our music started to get heavier. I put my guitar occasionally to drop B for a few songs, so really, Slipknotting it up. Put 12 gauges on there, so it's heavy and beautiful riffage. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I thought I'd just quickly share it with you as a quick vlog. Well, let me know what you've been listening to. I want to hear what you guys have been listening to. If you go onto this, if you just Google Spotify year in music, you'll find out. And let me know what you guys are doing as well, and if there's, or what you think of my musical taste over the course of the year. Don't mention Nikki from Funeral for the Six. I'm not even going to bother explaining that. That's almost embarrassing. So yeah, look out.